everyone, it's Amy from Polyreader. Welcome to another booktube video. This morning I just wanted to do a quick wrap up of the books I've been reading over the past month. I have kind of got my reading mojo back, still not 100% back to where I was before, but I'm just taking it slow, letting myself read when I can, not forcing myself to sort of get through any amount in particular. I have officially reached my goal for the year, which was just 60. During my first trimester when I was all brain foggy, I actually decreased it back to 52 because I heard a few people recommend it was a good idea to sort of lower that expectation of yourself, just to sort of relieve some of the pressure. And surprisingly, it really helped me to go, oh, I'm so close to 52, everything will be fine. 52 was my goal last year, and before I even realized it, I'd beat my original goal anyway. So yeah, I've read 61 now. I've outread myself. Last year I only read 52, so I've outread myself by 8 or 9 books. A lot of you are probably thinking 60 is not much, but I work 6 days. I work in a regular job 4 days a week, and I also work freelance. I have my own business, so all the times that I'm not working at my regular job, I'm thinking about my freelance work. I'm on photo shoots, I'm at home editing, it's quite a lot of work, and it's really hard to fit reading into my schedule, but I do prioritize it. So I read more than a lot of people I know personally who aren't booktubers and whatnot, but in terms of the booktube world, I really don't read that much, but I'm still proud of how I'm going, so there you go. I actually don't have a lot of these with me to show you the books that I've read, and the reason is because I have been utilizing the library more than ever before, which I'm really stoked about, because it's something that I wanted to include as a goal this year. And really only since I've been pregnant I've started doing that, because oh my god, there's a baby coming, I need to be saving money, so I can't really just be spending hundreds of dollars on books like I would normally be doing. So what I've been doing, I've got a great library here in Melbourne. Yarra libraries they have pretty much everything that I want to read, but the wait time can be quite long on newer books. So what I generally do is, as soon as there's a book I want to read, if I'm not either getting it from the publisher or able to get a reasonably cheap copy or borrow it from a friend, whatever, I will look it up on Yarra libraries and place a hold on it. And sometimes I have to wait a month. Sometimes I have to wait like 6 weeks, 8 weeks, but it's fine because I've got so much to read, and by the time it's ready, it just gives me a notification. I go to the library and I pick up all my books. So the first book I'm going to talk about is actually an audio book that I listened to, and that is an Australian non-fiction new release called Any Ordinary Day by Lee Sales. So this book was phenomenal. I love Lee Sales. I listened to the podcast Chat 10 Looks 3 with her and Annabelle Crabb. She is a renowned journalist, news reporter here in Australia, works for the ABC. She's just a genius, powerhouse woman. A lot of us idolize her and respect her. But yes, this book is a non-fiction delving into the lives of trauma and terrorism survivors sort of thing. So not just trauma and terrorism, but essentially humans that have experienced traumatic life events unexpectedly. And it talks a lot about chance and statistics, and how any of us can leave the house on a regular day to head to work or whatever it is that we do, and something tragic can happen, and how unexpected that is and how unlikely it is. But these things still happen, and people have so much resilience. People get through these just intense life-altering experiences, and they are so resilient to it that they continue on with their lives eventually. Obviously obviously it affects them in great deal, but everyone reacts differently, and a lot of these people they live on to have really regular lives, and it's just incredibly inspiring. It also has a lot of honest and open self-reflection from Lee herself about her own mistakes throughout her life as a journalist, and her interactions with people, and what journalists can sometimes, the lengths they can go to get a quality story that's engaging to the public. And I love her self-reflective qualities, and it reminds me a lot of the way Garner talks in her nonfiction, which, as all of you know, is one of my favorite. She's one of my favorite writers. Those types of people are the most profound types of people, because a lot of us go through life and we don't have any self-awareness or self-reflection. And you know, there's so much judgment and there's so much criticism going on outwardly towards other people, but not a lot of self-reflection and self-criticism and self-awareness in fixing the mistakes that we are making and realizing that we are just as bad as everybody else. I mean, we're all human, you know? Yeah, it's about processing traumatic life events, and it is just such a phenomenal book. And I guess I didn't have many expectations. I didn't know a lot about it before I went into it, so that helps. But definitely listen to the audiobook if you like audiobooks and if you can, because Lee narrates it herself. Yeah, like I love when, especially with nonfiction, when the author narrates it themselves, because you just get a feeling for the emotions throughout, and you can hear how it affected them as they're reading it back. And I think it's just the most realistic and honest way to access nonfiction. I mean, I'm sure the book is amazing as well, so get a copy of the book if you can't or don't want to listen to the audiobook. But 5 out of 5. Lee Sales, Any Ordinary Day. Next up, I read another brilliant Australian book by Chrissy Neen. I think it's Chrissy Neen. I'm assuming the K is silent. The book is called Wintering, and this was mind-blowing. I hadn't really read anything like this before. I had no expectations when I went into it. All I knew is that it was set in Tasmania. She is a really prolific writer in Australia. She was shortlisted for the Stella Prize this year for a different book, which was called, I'm not sure what that was called, so I can't remember off the top of my head, but yes, she's a great writer. I'd never read anything of hers before. So it's set in Tasmania, and I just read Flames, which was set in Tasmania, and that was similarly beautiful descriptions of the landscape and environment throughout the state. Yeah, Chrissy Neen did a really brilliant job of that as well. And I love the idea of Tasmania. I've never actually been there, but it feels so close to home. It feels so relatable, and I suppose it's Australia, so it's quite relative to places I've lived, but the landscape and environment there just sounds so rich. So Wintering is a bizarrely unexpected supernatural thriller, I guess, which I wasn't expecting. I thought it was a mystery. I didn't realize that it had supernatural themes. That was pretty interesting sort of addition, which all sort of relate metaphorically to the abuse women experience, domestic abuse women experience, especially women. I don't mean to be singling out gender here, but I mean it's quite prominent in Australia especially, and many other countries, that domestic abuse towards women is extremely high and damaging. And yeah, this book does a really great job of metaphorically portraying that in all of these bizarre ways. I can't really tell you a lot without giving away the storyline, and I think it's a really great book to go into without a lot of knowledge about what happens. It's the effect domestic abuse can leave on women long after the partner has moved on. In this instance, it is supernatural. Let's just say it's about a protagonist who is in a relationship with an emotionally abusive partner, and physically in some ways, sometimes, but still emotionally, physically abusive partner, and he goes missing one day. That's all I'm gonna say. The rest of it is, yeah, very interesting. And the protagonist, the main character, the female, I can't remember her name, and I don't have the book with me now because it's from the library, but she actually works in the caves in Tasmania. So she takes like guided tours through the caves, and she's an environmental scientist. So that was really fascinating too. So there's lots of interesting parts of the book that just made it a really incredible read. I gave it 4 out of 5. Next, I read AET by Roxane Gay. I have read pretty much everything Roxane Gay has written now. I'm trying to think. I don't think there's anything left for me to read. This is one of her first fiction, I believe. It's short stories, and it was recently republished. And it's definitely my favorite of all of her fiction, surprisingly. I didn't love Difficult Women, and I think that's because I had read An Untamed State, which Difficult Women was short stories based off a lot of the themes that were covered in An Untamed State, so it felt a bit repetitive to me after reading a lot of Roxanne's work, but I should call it Gay's work, not Roxanne's work. So it's all short fiction based around the diaspora experience. There's some quite saucy stuff going on in these short stories, I have to say, which I wasn't expecting necessarily. I know Roxanne Gay does write some erotic content in some of her other books, but I guess some of these were like, whoa, there's a sex scene happening right now. But yeah, she writes them really well. They're not uncomfortably explicit, but they're raunchy, you know. But yeah, 80 was just brilliant. Each story was really well written and left a mark, you know, and I love it when short stories do that, because, you know, if you've got a collection of stories, it's likely that they're not all going to be as good as one another. I think this is her best fiction. I think if you're going to read any Roxane Gay fiction, this is where you should start. It's got really important messages about, like I said, the diaspora experience and Haitian culture, and LGBT positive as well, which is another excellent thing to cover in fiction, which is not covered well enough. I gave that one 4 out of 5.